All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Hakudash. Double honor to those apostles, great millstone that taught me this truth, and Shalom to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel scattered across the four corners of the globe, and also Shalom to the body of believers that were prophesied to return in these latter days. And briefly, wanted to go into a couple articles um, going into some cyber attacks. That have been, or a simulation of a cyber attack that the IMF had um, with a list of countries. Um, and I want to get another article as well. And I'm not necessarily saying that these articles are connected, but they do point out a common theme, and that common theme is that um, cyber warfare, if you will, or cyber attacks. Um, that's going to be a component, all right, of the issuing in of the Revelation is 13:16, all right, the no man can buy or sell, the charagma, all right, the MOTB, all right. In order for the powers to bring that forth, um, first they have to prove this current monetary system and this current banking system. They have to prove these things insufficient. They have to show that these systems are not reliable, all right, and that the general public, is at risk using these systems, all right, and that we're going to have to go to a new system, which we know is the Great Reset, all right. The Fourth Industrial Revolution is another title, the Internet of Things, the Internet of Bodies, all right. In order to get to that end game, all right, in order to get to that solution, there has to be a problem first. And if you've been paying attention to the news, I mean, you could really go back probably a year, maybe even a little more. This theme of cyber attacks has been coming up more and more and more, because, like I said, the centerpiece, the MOTB, all right, the mark, you know, that is the centerpiece of the world to come, you know, and that solution, um, in order to get there, these cyber attacks um, are going to cause people, you know, to, lose, access to their money. All right. People are going to lose access to their finances, you know, and they're telling you that, and this article goes into that. So without further ado, let me just get into the article. Um, it says, this is on itnews.com or IT News. It says IMF, 10 countries simulate cyber attack on global financial system in an attempt to increase cooperation. Israel has led a 10-country simulation of a cyber attack on the global financial system in an attempt to increase cooperation that could help to minimize any potential damage to financial markets and banks. Let me read that last part again. Let me read it again. It says Israel has led a 10-country simulation of a major cyber attack on the global financial system in an attempt to increase cooperation that could help to minimize any potential damage to financial markets and banks. All right. And we already know, all right, that this cooperation, is going to be perfected in, the fulfillment of the prophecies. All right. All these nations, all these governments of the world um, are going to, you know, comply in the issuance of the mark, All right, that has to happen according to biblical prophecy, you know, and it's going to change the way that people live their lives. All right, and another unique selling point, if you will, of crypto or these blockchain systems is that these blockchain systems can operate outside of the internet. They don't necessarily need, internet connection in order to facilitate transactions. And when you look into, some different cryptocurrencies, um, XRP, Ripple is an interesting one to look at. But like I said, these solutions that they have ready, um, you don't necessarily need internet connection, and that's going to be important. All right, when a cyber attack does take place, when people don't have actual access to their money because they can't, their phone, their phone doesn't have a connection, or their app isn't working because of whatever reason, or maybe the power lines are just down. How are people going to be able to facilitate transactions and buy and sell? They're not going to be able to. All right, and they're going to take advantage of that situation. But let me keep going. It says the simulated cyber attack evolved over 10 days with sensitive data emerging on the dark web, along with fake news reports that ultimately caused chaos in the global markets and a run on banks. All right, let me just get the definition of a bank run real quick. It says a bank run occurs when a large number of customers of a bank or other financial institution withdraw their deposits simultaneously over concerns of a bank's solvency. All right, let me look up that word solvency real quick. Slovakia. It says solvency is the ability of a company to meet its long term debts and financial obligations. Solvency can be an important measure of financial health since it's one way of demonstrating a company's ability to manage its operations into the foreseeable future. All right. So, a lot of these, you know, um, mainstream banks, if you will, like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, and some of the smaller ones that are still left. Um, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out, especially when you factor in the fact that the dollar and fiat currencies all around the globe are losing their value because of inflation, you know, and because of the inflation, it's causing most of the people to be funneled into other assets, but primarily cryptocurrency, digital currency, which when you go into the etymology of that word crypto, it means hidden, it means hidden. Um, but yeah, like I talked about in previous videos, with all the advertising, the crypto advertising that we're seeing and marketing that we're seeing, and Elon Musk talking about it, and celebrities talking about it, and athletes getting contracts in Bitcoin, we see an intentional effort by the powers that be, all right, to funnel the masses of the people, all right, towards this, you know, path, this way, all right, which ultimately we know leads to the mark, you know. So it'll be interesting to see how these commercial banks play out. Like I said, like Bank of America, etc., because they really won't be needed um, with the system that they're ushering in. They won't be needed really. Um, but we'll see how it plays out. Um, Let me go back to the article. One thing we know for sure, we can rely on the prophecies. Scripture say we know in part, we prophesy in part, but we know for sure, all right, about the, you know, um, OTB. You can't really talk about it on YouTube, so that's why I'm using acronyms. Um, Let me keep going. It says the simulation featured several types of attacks that impacted global foreign exchange and bond markets, liquidity, integrity of data, and transactions between importers and exporters. And that statement right there is what made me think of Ripple, a company called Ripple and XRP. And if you're in the crypto space, it's interesting because XRP is also the first cryptocurrency basically to be in the process of regulation um, by the SEC, the Security Exchange Commission. So XRP um, is ahead of all the other cryptos as far as like actually being, regulated. So they're actually a step ahead. Um, and then when you look at and I actually have the websites pulled up here. When you go to the website, their USP is they call it on-demand liquidity, right? So it actually, solves the very problem that they're saying, these cyber attacks, could cause. And this is just me speaking as a man. Um, when you look into the technology, ultimately it really doesn't matter. Whatever it's called, we know they have the solution ready already. That's the point. All right, problem, reaction, solution. You create the problem, you wait for people to react, all right, to cry out, and then you give them the solution that you already had waiting. It's a very simple concept. Um, and this is how the powers to be, this is how Esau Edom does things. He plans them way out in advance, all right, and he uses gradualism, all right. He takes things a step at a time, but he's ultimately been very successful doing this. Let me keep going. It says the Israeli government officials said that such threats are possible in the wake of many high profile cyber attacks on large companies, that the only way to contain any damage is through global cooperation, since current cybersecurity is not always strong enough. All right, global cooperation. All right, that's the key. You know, NWO. It says participants in the initiative called Collective Strength. It's funny. It really sounds like NATO, but just a financial version, you know. But it says participants in the initiative called Collective Strength included Treasury officials from Israel, the United States, the UK, United Arab Emirates, Austria, Switzerland, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, and Thailand, as well as representatives from the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and the Bank of International Settlements. All right, and those institutions, are the biggest criminal organizations, to ever grace the planet Earth. All right, and they're the ones that are running this entire scam, man. All right. So let me go to the next one, the next article, because this happened. Um, Let me see the date of this last article. This article came out I think it came out a couple days ago. Um, but this article right here says 12/10. So yeah, this article came out 2 days ago. It's on thewire.com. It says the internet is on fire. All right, a vulnerability in the Log4j logging framework has security teams scrambling to put in a fix. And a side note that I thought was interesting is somebody that I know personally that works in the cybersecurity space, is actually dealing with this issue, and based off of what they're saying, is that this issue is being linked back um, to Russia. and we'll see if any more news comes out. But there's a lot of stuff going on right now. When you consider the Russia Ukraine NATO situation, all right, the India Russia situation. There are a lot of different things going on the planet Earth. And shit really could pop off soon, man. And hopefully, Lord will, it does. Um, but let me get into the article. It says a vulnerability in a widely used logging library has become a full-blown security meltdown, affecting digital systems across the internet. Hackers are already attempting to exploit it, but even as fixes emerge, researchers warn that the flaw could have serious repercussions worldwide. And I'm just going to read the points. All right, and basically it's a flaw, um, in the logging in and system of particular, you know, company websites. All right, it's a flaw in the programming. So let me keep going. So security responders are scrambling to patch the bug, which can be easily exploited to take care or to take control of vulnerable systems remotely. At the same time, hackers are actively scanning the internet for affected systems. Some have already developed tools that automatically attempt to exploit the bug, as well as worms that can spread independently from one vulnerable system to another under the right conditions. It says Log4j is a Java library, and Java is a programming language. But I think it says that. And while the programming language is less popular with consumers these days, it's still a very broad use in enterprise systems and web applications. Researchers told Wired on Friday that they expect many mainstream services will be affected. All right. So this is very interesting. Um, we keep reading. It says it's a design failure. So it's a design failure. It's a design failure of catastrophic proportions, says Free Wortley, CEO of the open source data security platform LunaSec. LunaSec. All right. That's spiritual, you know. And I find it very convenient, when you really, go into the nitty gritty, if you will, about our adversary, Esau Edom, the powers that be. Like I said, they like to plan things um a long time in advance, man. So when you consider like the monetary system, this Federal Reserve note monetary system, this fiat currency system, these systems, a lot of these systems that they have in place they know they're not sustainable. All right. They know that over time naturally they will break apart, they will collapse. They're not sustainable systems, you know. So when you consider, what they're talking about, a login, a flaw, a design failure of catastrophe proportions, you gotta keep in mind, man, a lot of this shit was planned, man. Long time in advance. Long time in advance, you know. Let me keep reading. It says the United States Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency issued an alert about the vulnerability on Friday, as did Australia's CERT. Um, New Zealand's government cybersecurity organization alert noted that the vulnerability is reportedly being actively exploited. It's pretty dang bad, said Wortley. So many people are vulnerable. This is so easy to exploit. There are some mitigating factors, but this being a real world, there will be many companies that are on current releases that are scrambling to fix this. And it also says, it's a testament to people who think that things are going back to normal. and people who trust, in the system, man. This is the most fragile, um, you know, this is it's terrible. I mean, everything the way shit is set up is it's just awful. You know, to make the masses of people so reliant on all these things, is the dumbest shit ever, man. People are completely dependent on the powers to be. They're completely dependent on their oppressors, Israelites, and the heathens as well. All right, we've all, especially in America, you know, the lifestyle that we live is damn near entirely dependent on the internet. All right, which is gonna make that cyber attack hit even harder. All right, when this shit happens, man, people are not gonna know what to do. They're not gonna be able to do anything. You know. But let me keep going. I think there's another point. It says there's not much the average users can do other than install updates for various online services whenever they're available. Most of the work to be done will be done on the enterprise side as companies and organizations scramble to implement fixes. Security mature organizations um, will start trying to assess their exposure within hours of an exploit like this. But some organizations will take a few weeks and some will never look at it. A security engineer from a major software company told Wired the person asked not to be named because they are working closely with the critical infrastructure response teams to address the vulnerability. The internet is on fire. This shit is everywhere. And I do mean everywhere. All right. So it's sounding like this is a serious issue. So, you know, brothers be on the lookout. Probably gonna start seeing a lot more hackings. All right, hackings into you know all type of things, man. We'll see as it matures. This just happened. This just started. Um, and like I said, I know somebody personally that works in the space, and they are working, nonstop. All right, nonstop. It says while incidents like SolarWinds hack and its fallout showed how wrong things can go when attackers infiltrate commonly used software, the Log4j meltdown speaks more to how widely the effects of a single flaw can be felt if it sits in a foundational piece of code that is incorporated into a lot of software. All right, so this particular situation is a single flaw that is critical to a majority of software. Let me keep reading. It says issues like, library issues like this one pose a particularly bad supply chain scenario for fixing. All right, so this is also going to affect the supply chain. All right, another burden on the supply chain. All right, says Katie Mazuris, founder of Luda Security and a longtime vulnerability researcher. Everything that uses that library must be tested with the fixed version in place. Having coordinated library vulnerabilities in the past, my sympathy is with those scrambling right now. And the thing is also, like these bigger corporations, they have the resources, they have the money, they have the people, you know, and they're in the know, all right, and they know what's coming, all right. But these smaller and medium-sized businesses that are going to be affected, all right, in their pockets, especially this time of year, all right, the end of Q4, all right, this is a critical time of year for businesses, all right, and so this is just another, you know, you know, cut, if you will, to these small and medium-sized businesses, all right, that are not in the know, all right, these smaller organizations are death by a thousand cuts, but not really a thousand cuts. I mean, the lockdown, that was a major blow, all right, and it's not going to get any better. you know so that's all I wanted to touch on that. Lord willing, it was edifying. With that, I'll say shalom.